Picture two tractors parked at the end of the same field, both the better part of $500,000. On the left, a John Deere 8R410, 410 horsepower, the machine that built the American row crop. On the right, a Fendt 942, the biggest of the 900 series. Almost the same horsepower and almost the same money. Same acres, same long spring day. But watch the two operators climb down at dark. The one off the Deere is wrung out, shoulders locked, finished. The one off the Fendt 900 series looks like he could climb back up and go again. Same field, same price, one man cooked and one man fine. And the whole difference comes down to a single decision the premium buyer makes that Moline still cannot answer. If you would rather own your machine than rent it back from the software, subscribe, because we name every feature they turned into a subscription. Go back 30 years and John Deere sold one thing above all else, a machine built around the man in the seat. Somewhere on the road to becoming a software company, Deere quietly changed what it was selling. The people running Moline started counting recurring revenue, subscription screens, and dealer service tickets, and the operator slid down the priority list. The premium buyer, the farmer who runs 1,000 hours a year in that cab, felt it first. He stopped getting a tractor designed around his spine and his fatigue, and started getting a tractor designed around a payment plan. That is the quiet betrayal underneath this whole story. And the villain is not a color and not a country. It is the finance floor that decided the balance sheet mattered more than the field. Now look at the challenger out of the German Alps. The Fendt 900 series is built in Markt Oberdorf, a factory town where a family firm named Xaver Fendt made tractors for the steep hills long before software ever touched a dashboard. Here is the part people get wrong. The brand is not some foreign raider sneaking into the heartland. Back in 1997, an American company bought it, AG Co., headquartered in Duluth, Georgia, and the deal came with three promises. Keep the Fendt name on the hood, keep the Markt Oberdorf factory running, and pay a fair price. AG Co. kept all three, and then it did the thing Moline did not see coming. It aimed that German engineering straight at the American row crop, straight at Deere's best customer. The numbers say the bet is landing. AG Co. has pushed the Fendt dealer count in North America past 200 rooftops, across 29 states and 9 provinces, adding more than 80 stores since 2018. And AG Co. has told its investors it wants Fendt sales across the Americas to reach $1.7 billion by 2029, up from around $1 billion in 2024. That is not a hobby brand parked at a county fair. That is a challenger, walking onto Deere's home ground and offering the premium operator the one thing he quietly stopped getting. So what is the single decision that splits those two operators at dark? It is the transmission. And more than the transmission, it is 30 years of building an entire machine around it. The thing carries a name the Germans gave it in 1995, the Vario, and it changed what a tractor is supposed to feel like. Here is what it does in plain terms. A normal heavy tractor, including that John Deere 8R, comes standard with a power shift, a stack of gears, 23 of them on the 8R, that the machine punches up and down as the load changes. The Vario throws the gear stack out entirely. It is a stepless drive, one lever, and the operator simply dials in the ground speed he wants, from a slow crawl in the row all the way to road speed, and the transmission continuously finds the exact engine RPM to hold it there. No shifting, no hunting for the right gear on a hill, no gap where the machine loses its pull halfway up the slope. Under the cover, it is a hydraulic pump and motor working together with a set of planetary gears, and making that combination feel like one smooth lever is one of the hardest tricks in the whole machine. Operator-friendly is the right word for the result. Simple is the wrong word for how it is built. That gap, a machine built for the operator instead of the balance sheet, is the whole reason we put together the Equipment Freedom Manual. It is our playbook for breaking dealer lock-in and cutting what a working tractor costs to own, and keeping a farmer free of the subscription screen. The link is right below this video. Now back to the seat, because the Vario story is only half told. The history matters here, because this is the part Moline cannot go back and buy. Fendt showed the first Vario at the Agritechnica Farm Show in 1995, on a tractor called the Favorite 926 260 horsepower, the first full-size production tractor in the world with a stepless drive like this. The idea came from a Fendt engineer named Hans Marschall, who had been chasing it since the 1970s. By late 2016, the quarter-millionth Vario rolled off the Markt Oberdorf line. That is 30 years and 250,000 transmissions of doing one thing while everyone else kept selling gears. Now the honest part, because we do not sell fairy tales on this channel. John Deere is not standing still, and Deere engineers are not fools. Deere sells its own stepless option on the 8R, an electric version, and the operators who run it will tell you it is genuinely good. So the one thing Deere cannot copy is not the stepless gearbox itself. It is everything Fendt stacked around it. On the John Deere 8R, the power shift is standard, and the stepless drive is the pricey upgrade you have to go find and pay extra for. On the Fendt 900 series, the VAH Rio is the only way the tractor comes, the default, the identity, the thing a whole generation of operators built their muscle memory on. One company treats the stepless drive as a line item on the order sheet. The other company treats it as the reason the tractor exists. And that is a difference an org chart in Moline cannot bolt on after the fact. And that difference shows up exactly where the premium buyer lives, in the seat, over 1,000 hours a year. The operator who spends 12 hours a day in a cab during planting does not care about a brochure. He cares whether his back is locked at dark, whether the machine held its speed on the wet side of the field, whether the engine was screaming or loafing. The VAH Rio lets the engine loaf. Fendt runs a low engine speed idea it calls ID, letting that big diesel work down around 650 RPM, where a gear tractor would be revving hard, so the cab goes quiet and the fuel gauge drops slower. You do not have to take the brand's word for the fuel part because an independent German test lab measures it. The DLG Power Mix test runs a tractor through 14 real work cycles, tillage, hauling, road, and reports the diesel it actually burns. Fendt machines keep setting the records. The Fendt 832 VAH Rio posted a record low of 235 grams of diesel per kilowatt hour, the best any tractor up to that power class had ever turned in. The Fendt 620 VAH Rio holds the lowest diesel figure in its horsepower class of every tractor DLG has ever tested. Different engines in those two models, but the same stepless VAH Rio philosophy underneath. And when the operator saves a few tenths of a gallon an hour across 1,000 hours, that is real money he keeps and the man in the power shift hands to the fuel supplier. So climb up into the actual machine the American premium operator is buying, because the Fendt 900 series was built for exactly this fight. There are 5 tractors in the current Gen 7 line. The Fendt 930 opens the range at 296 horsepower, then the 933 at 326, the 936 at 355, the 939 at 385, and the Fendt 942 sits on top at 415 horsepower. That top tractor lines up almost exactly against the John Deere 8R 410 on power, and it lands in the same $500,000 bracket. The Fendt 942, running past $600,000 once it is fully equipped. Under the hood of the 900 series sits a 9-liter 6-cylinder MAN engine, built by the German truck engine maker, whose diesels haul freight across Europe. It is a slow-revving, high-torque design, peak pull around 1,970 Newton-meters down at 1,550 RPM, and that low RPM grunt is the entire point. Torque low in the rev range means the VAH Rio can hold the ground speed the operator set, while the engine barely lifts its voice. Put that MAN engine together with the stepless drive and the ID low-speed idea, and you get a 400-horsepower tractor that pulls like a freight train and loafs like a pickup on the road. But the premium operator does not live under the hood. He lives in the cab, and the cab is where Fendt spends the money that matters. The 900 series runs the Fendt One Station, a pair of tablet-style screens on the armrest that the operator arranges his own way. Every function of the machine gathered in one place, instead of scattered across a dashboard full of buttons. The VAH Rio drive splits power between the front and rear axles and actually helps haul the tractor around the headland turn, so the man is not wrestling the wheel on every pass. A suspended cab and a suspended front axle soak up the ground so his spine is not taking the beating the field wants to give it. Every one of these choices aims at the same target, the human being who is going to sit in that chair from before sunup to after dark. And the 900 series did not arrive alone. When AGCO redrew this tractor as the row crop-friendly 900 Gen 6, it was one piece of a full premium line built for the American operator, landing alongside the Fendt Ideal Combine that AGCO rolled out in 2018. The plan was never to sell a farmer one clever tractor. It was to hand the premium operator a whole yard of green-grade iron in a different color, the tractor, the combine, and the dealer standing behind both, so that crossing the aisle no longer meant giving anything up. That is how a challenger takes a customer who hates switching, by making sure there is nothing left to switch away from. Ask the man who runs one what actually changed, and he will not talk about horsepower. He talks about the end of the day. With the stepless drive, he sets a target speed for the planter, and the tractor simply holds it, up the rise and down into the wet spot, without him riding a clutch or chasing a gear. His hands are freer to watch the implement instead of babysitting the transmission. On a 14-hour day, that difference is not a luxury. It is whether he is still sharp at dark when a mistake costs the most. The premium operator is buying his own attention back, hour after hour, and that is a thing no order sheet out of Moline has ever known how to price. If you trust the operator over the men in Moline who never sat in the seat, you belong here, so subscribe and stay for the reckoning. Now the resale, because this is where the premium buyer's math actually closes. A tractor is not only a purchase, it is an asset the farmer sells again in a few years, and Fendt holds its value in a way that surprises people the first time they read an auction sheet. Used Fendt machines roll across the block with heavy hours on the clock and still bring strong money, because the next operator wants the same VAH Rio seat the first owner wanted. That resale strength is not a slogan on a banner. It is thousands of buyers voting with real checks that the operator experience is worth paying for a second time. And here is the fair part, because we do not pretend the green machine is junk. A good local John Deere dealer is a real thing, and plenty of them will move heaven and earth for a farmer at 2 in the morning in the middle of harvest. The trouble was never the dealer on the county road or the welder in the back of the shop. The trouble is the strategy written above them, in Moline and on the balance sheet, that decided the operator was a subscription to be billed instead of a craftsman to be served. Fendt under AG Co. walked into that gap on purpose, with a German transmission and an American dealer network, and handed the premium operator the machine John Deere used to build. Now step back from the tractor, because what is happening to John Deere has happened before, in every industry that ever let the finance floor overrule the workshop floor. The pattern never changes. A dominant premium brand gets so good and so profitable that the accountants take the wheel, and the accountants look at the most demanding customer, the one who asks for the hardest and most expensive things, and they quietly decide he costs too much to keep happy. So the brand slowly stops building for him. And that most demanding customer is exactly the one who notices first, and walks first, and says the least on his way out the door. Look at Boeing. For generations, Boeing was the company that built the airplane the pilots trusted, run by engineers who came up through the plant floor in Seattle. Then the finance culture took the controls, the way critics and its own former engineers have described for years, and the people who read spreadsheets began overruling the people who read blueprints. The airplane stopped being the point, and the share price became the point. It ended where that road always ends, with the 737 MAX grounded around the world after 2 fatal crashes, and the airlines, the most demanding buyers in aviation, quietly moving their orders. In 2019, Airbus, the European challenger, handed over 863 jets, while Boeing delivered only 380. Boeing had not lost the delivery race since 2012. The professional buyer had done the math and voted, and he voted for the company still run by the people who build the thing. The parallel with a green tractor company that fell in love with software is not subtle. That is the John Deere story with wings on it. The premium operator is the airline of agriculture. He is the single most demanding customer in the whole business, the one who runs the machine harder and longer and in worse weather than anyone else, and he is precisely the customer Moline decided to turn into a monthly bill. So he is doing what the airlines did. He is not writing angry letters to Illinois. He is walking across the dealer lot to a Fendt 900 series and signing his name on the line. And here is the fact that should keep somebody in Moline awake at night. The used John Deere market is not collapsing. It is doing the exact opposite. Prices on good used green tractors, the older ones a farmer can still fix in his own shop with his own wrenches, are climbing, and rising used prices are not a vote of confidence in the new John Deere. They are the market openly voting for the old John Deere, the machine built before the subscription screen, the tractor that answered to the operator instead of to a server in a data center. When your used iron gains value because buyers want the version of your company that existed 20 years ago, that is not strength. That is your best customers telling you, in cash, exactly which turn you should never have taken. You can find the same story in every premium world if you go looking for it. the luxury car names that let the badge coast on reputation, while a focused challenger obsessed over how the machine actually drove. The phone makers who chased margin per account while one company obsessed over the person actually holding the device in his hand. It rhymes every single time. The incumbent counts revenue per user, the challenger counts the experience of the one human using the product. And given enough years, the challenger walks off with the customer who cares the most about the work. Back in the farmyard, the proof is stacking up in Fendt's favor, quietly, the way it always stacks up before it becomes obvious to everybody. More than 200 Fendt rooftops across 29 states did not exist at this scale a handful of years ago. $1 billion of Fendt sales across the Americas, aimed at $1.7 billion by the end of the decade, is not a rounding error on anybody's page. None of this means Fendt outsells John Deere in America, because it does not, and it is not close. Deere is still the giant, still the default green on most of the horizon, still the tractor the majority of farms will buy. But the direction is the entire story. The challenger is gaining the premium operator, while the giant is slowly losing him. And the thing quietly changing hands is not a percentage on a market share chart. It is the loyalty of the one buyer who understands the machine better than the men who sell it, sitting in the seat, doing the math on his own back and his own fuel bill, and deciding a German transmission is worth crossing the aisle for. So the operator who always said the seat matters was right the whole time. The decision that splits those two tractors at the end of the field was never in the brochure and never on the spec sheet. It was in the 1,000 hours a year the premium buyer spends in the chair, in his back at dark, in the diesel he burns, in the machine he can sell again with pride. Deere is not dying, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. The green iron in the used lots is climbing in value precisely because the brand people fell in love with was real, and that love is not the question. The question is whether the company in Moline still answers to the person in the seat, and for the premium operator the honest answer stopped being yes. He has an alternative now, a real one, built in a German factory town and sold through an American dealer network, a Fendt 900 series, with a 30-year head start on the one thing that decides his whole day. He is taking it, quietly, one trade at a time, at dealer lots across 29 states, while the giant tells its investors about software. The reckoning was never going to be loud. It was always going to look like an ordinary farmer, at an ordinary lot, choosing the machine that was built for him, instead of build to him. If you want that same freedom on your own place, the Equipment Freedom Manual is linked below. The seat was always telling the truth, and now the market is telling it too. Subscribe if you believe engineering should answer to the field, not the stockholder, because that is the whole reason this channel exists.